I am pleased to announce that I have successfully guided my crowman, my birdman, through several weeks of survival. We haven't done anything heroic, but I have learned a lot about adventure mode and how it actually works. So with these tips, you will be able to keep a character alive, at least in theory. So the first thing that you're going to want to know how to do is actually have conversations. I was confused by this when I first got into the menus, because when you first greet somebody, they'll say, oh yeah, hey, what's up? And then that'll be the end of the interaction. You then have to use, in the version I'm playing, it's K is the key binding for that. You then need to reinitiate for each round of conversation that actually happens. So you say hello, they say hello, good. That conversation is now open and it's going well. You now have to press K again to say, what's up? Do you have any missions for me? Is there any trouble in this town? Like, where could I find some treasure? You then have to continue the interrogation through reiterations of K or whatever the key binding is in your version for continuing a conversation. That's one of the first big things I learned. I just really needed to share that. Let me see, I'm checking my notes here. All right, food and drink. Like I said, I haven't done anything heroic. I haven't really done any quests or made any friends. But what I have been doing, and I'm just a birdman, I'm flying around, and we're going to circle back to the things I've learned about flight. I may have explained it a little incorrectly in the last one, but now I've got it nailed down, how to fly and how to walk and everything like that. How to sneak, how to run, how to fly at top speed, how to hover, which is actually a stealth move where you use your flight to just like creep in silently on an animal. Anyway, let's talk food and drink first, because that's how your adventurer is going to need to sleep. Really, sleep is just, find a safe place for them to sleep. They are going to need food and water though, or at least food and hydration. Now, here's one of the best fun facts. I think I teased it on the thumbnail there. So it turns out that blood is very hydrating. The liquid physics in adventure mode is especially interesting because if it rains, if anything splashes, for example, if blood splashes while you're killing something, you will have that liquid all over your body, all over your clothes, even down to individual toes. I have had this Grackle, this crowman, I've had them suck blood off of one of their own individual big toes as a source of hydration. Hydration, you don't have to drink blood, but it turns out that blood is incredibly, incredibly hydrating. It works even if you're not a vampire. Don't have to be a vampire at all. Maybe an oversight in the programming at this point. May not apply to when this comes out in Steam. But drink as much blood as you possibly can. Honestly, this is how I've kept the crow alive. So the crowman, what I do is I hover, so I fly up very, very stealthily, or I creep up very, very stealthily to an animal that's like by itself and it's probably not going to fight back. So I find like a wild horse or I find a wild yak. And this is the other thing I'm going to segue. I'm going to circle back, I promise, on how to do combat, because combat is almost as complicated as conversations where you have to reiterate certain button presses. I'm going to get into that. It's much more complicated. But the fact is, once you understand how to do combat and you have like a weapon, you can kill animals, sneak up on them, that helps a lot, and then strike them down, kill them. And in the process of that, you'll be covered with blood and produce a lot of blood, which in adventure mode, at least in the latest version that players can play, is as good as water. So for hydration, whenever your character is getting thirsty, you'll want to find a river or a lake, or, you could do something normal like fill a drinking flask with rainwater or something like that. And I've been drinking from rivers as well. When you're flying, I really recommend, if you want to try adventure mode, try somebody who can fly, because it makes finding things much easier. You just zoom over everything. I've been flying, finding rivers, drinking from the rivers. When it rains, I drink all the water off the surface of my body. I would also recommend that. Always check your body, because if it has blood or water on it, your character can suck that off of the surface of their own body. I've killed a yak and a horse and maybe another horse. And so I now have big stacks of meat and like prepared organs that I can eat whenever I'm hungry. It's just in my backpack. And I've been living off of the bloodshed that I drink when there's pools of blood after I butchered an animal. You just drink those up in adventure mode. So very disturbing. This was a big surprise for me, but that does turn out to be how it is in at least version 47 point whatever of Dwarf Fortress. So I've covered conversations. They were different than I thought. I covered food and drink. Food and drink, kill animals for food. You can also drink these animals, as it turns out. So combat, now we're getting into. Really important, almost basically as important as conversation to understand. And it works in the same kind of way. But so you sneak up and you stand next to an animal, or in a way where one of your weapons could hurt them. And then it's actually really, really detailed, because you can actually go in and say, I'm going to use this weapon in this hand, and I'm going to aim at this part of the body. If you ever played Fortress mode, you know that the combat logs are like really, really detailed, and it'll be like someone grabs someone else's hair and then they hit them with their knee, and the knee caused some bruising to their abdomen. Very, very detailed. You can actually call those shots, and it will tell you like what you should aim for. So one thing I found when I was researching how to survive in adventure mode, it said try to always aim for the head or the neck, which makes sense. But, you know, a lot of times the head or the neck won't be available, so you want to swing at a leg, and the game will tell you, you know, based on the animal's position, exactly, you know, you could swing, and it's a real roll of the dice to hit them in the head, but if, you know, maybe that's exactly what you need. If you're lucky enough, I found it more useful to kind of like find strikes that are guaranteed and solid. It'll say, it's like you have a good chance of making this hit, and the hit should land well. You know, they really like evaluate ricochets and things like that, like if your strike glances off or if it's a good hit. But so I say go for the sure thing so far, and whenever there's a clean chance to hit the head or the neck, aim for that. But so yeah, sneak up and aim for the head and the neck, drink their blood. Oh, so one thing I learned that's really, really useful. So in conversations, you have to initiate the conversation and then reinitiate the conversation for every new round of questioning or conversation that you want to have. Now, they did something useful, which is that after you have taken out a weapon and attacked something else, it will count it as a belligerent. And from then, you can use just your directional keys, the same keys you use to walk around, and that will kind of auto combat for you. So it'll actually decide. I'm not sure exactly how it decides, because I was attacking when I was killing this ox for meat. I was attacking with a copper axe rather. And then when I was doing auto combat, just, you know, using the directional keys and letting it decide, it was doing a lot more of like grabbing and poking and wrestling. And I couldn't really convince it to favor swinging with the bladed weapon, which obviously is much more useful. But so I'm not sure about that, but you can kind of like fast forward through combat if you don't want to specifically decide this hand, this weapon, hit them here, you know, every single time. It'll kind of auto do that for you, and it'll mix things up. It'll have you, you know, kick and punch and do all kinds of things. So you can try that. So that's combat, as it turns out. It goes through iterations just like conversation, but you can automate it a little bit more. And just check out the Dwarf Fortress Wikia if you have more questions. And okay, so the last thing I wanted to say is that I actually gave you all, I was guessing how flight worked last time, and I was saying, I don't know how this works. Did I maybe hit a key? So I did want to actually post this retraction and the correction. So it turns out that if your adventurer has flying, that they will take off anytime that you try to move into a Z level where there's open air, which makes sense. And likewise, they will land anytime that you settle them down on ground. And so the key bindings on the version I'm playing are the 2 carets, so like less than and greater than. And those in this version of Dwarf Fortress are the same ones you use to go up and down in Fortress mode to, you know, go below ground or go up into the sky. So that makes sense. But so yeah, my Birdman will land anytime that there's ground beneath his feet. It seems that way, at least. Although no, because I've definitely flown over Z levels. I'm still not sure exactly what qualifies for a landing. I think it seems to be a Z level automatic based on the Z level that you're currently on, and then what's happening as you move into a different Z level. So like, for example, if you were flying and then you hit a mountain where you would have to walk up, and you haven't instructed to fly up instead, it will then switch you to your bird feet for walking. And likewise, if you are walking off of a mountain, rather than with a non-flying character, it might presumably automatically move you down that Z level as you move down the hill. Instead, for flying creatures, it will automatically set you to flight so that you can stay on that Z level. So that's basically, I would say that's the summary, is if you're flying, the game will automatically move you from flying or walking based on maintenance of your current Z level as you've instructed. So it'll try to keep you at the same elevation automatically, more than a non-flying character. Okay, I already talked way more than I meant to. These are all my main notes for having kept this Raven boy alive for maybe a few weeks now. Again, no heroics, no major adventures. I still have a lot to learn. But I hope everybody will stick with me, and hopefully the Steam version of Adventure Mode will come out and we can explore even more. If you made it this far, don't forget liking, commenting, subscribing, all that. If you haven't already, it really helps my channel. I really appreciate it. I love each of you, and especially the fans who do actually reach out and interact with me. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'll be in touch. I have I've made save backups of this crow boy, so he will never die, I promise. Actually, in the version 47 of Dwarf Fortress, they really discourage save scumming because they'll make you exit out. It's one of those save features where you can save if you're done playing, but you can't make like a save split. At least you're not intended to. But I insisted, I still made save splits. So this crow boy will live forever, I promise. All right. Thank you for listening. And I will catch everybody in the next one. Okay, goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.